For the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Couple things. One agenda change. The Forest Festival report will be delayed at their request till October, whatever our next meeting is, October 6th, 7th? Okay, 2nd. Thank you, Mike. And I'd like to acknowledge Mike McCarty's here, our new interim city manager. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Having me.
So we'll move right into council reports, starting with Councilmember Dorsey.
All right. Well, it's been kind of a busy couple of weeks, but I have my normal weekly staff briefings every Thursday at 3 o'clock. We've been doing budget meetings, which I'm sure we're all going to share that tonight, on the last 3 Fridays from 8:30 to 1. One of them was from 1 to 5, I believe, or 12 to 5, whatever that was. Also, I had a tour of the Sierra Pacific Mill the other day, and I was pretty surprised by what I saw down there. It's very well lit, it's very clean, and it's just a real good operation. In fact, I would encourage young people, especially young people right now, they're looking for workers and they're having a hard time filling jobs. And then yesterday we had a dedication for Sierra Pacific, and that was very, very good and very good food. I just came from a Mason Transit Authority meeting. That's why I was really close to being late. Tomorrow I meet with Mr. McCarty at 11 o'clock. And with a little one-on-one. And I think Saturday is the Police Academy graduation is Saturday at 10 o'clock, I think, and I'm going to try to make that. That's all I have.
Councilmember Nisco.
I, too, attended the tour of Sierra Pacific. It was quite a nice facility, and I appreciate them investing in Shelton. Besides our staff briefings and our budget meetings every week, I had a meeting also with Mr. McCarty yesterday. Welcome.
Thank you.
And we had a dedication ceremony of the SPI, Sierra Pacific. And we also have a State of the Community function on Thursday and the Academy on Friday for the Shelton Police Department. Saturday. I have it on Saturday. And that's it.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Kranz.
Well, the past couple of weeks, we have been involved with our staff briefings on Thursday. And also, we've been having our budget meetings on Fridays to address the budget shortfall. I did attend the Sierra Pacific ribbon cutting yesterday. Tomorrow, I will be having a one-on-one with our new interim city manager, Mike McCarty. Tomorrow, I will also be attending my monthly Criminal Justice Board meeting, and a few things that I probably have missed, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. My week was similar to what you've heard so far, SPI tour, SPI dedication, where I had the honor to speak, and that was pretty cool. Also attended Honoring Assisted Living Week. Councilmember Dorsey and Councilmember McDowell attended that with me to celebrate or to honor the Assisted Living Week at Maple Glen. The upcoming week, State of Community, is this Thursday. I also attended the Mason County Housing Authority meeting last week, and will be attending that another one early in October. I'm going to sit in on the state auditors are in the midst of doing their audit of City of Shelton's finances, and they have an entrance interview on Monday, and I will be sitting in on that. and then also attending and swearing in the new reserve officers on Saturday. So honored to do that.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Peterson.
Last week, I attended the Mason County Opioid Stakeholders Meeting at Alderbrook Resort, which is a bi-monthly meeting with partners throughout Mason County. In addition to the briefings and budget, I also took a tour of Sierra Pacific and attended the mill dedication this past Monday. I've also been in contact with Peninsula Regional Transportation Planning Organization regarding my appointment to that meeting, which is a quarterly meeting. This morning, I was lucky enough to have some time with Chief Moody to discuss some of the conversation that came out of the opioid stakeholders group last week. This Thursday is the State of the Community, of course. Tomorrow, I will get to meet with Mike at 1 o'clock, and then on Saturday, we'll also be attending the Police Academy graduation at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Councilmember McDowell.
Well, last week, I had my Lions Club meeting, briefing with Craig, and we attended the Assisted Living Proclamation Week celebration at Maple Glen, which was really fun. So that was really special. This week, yesterday, the SPI celebration and ribbon cutting, and I met with Mike today. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thursday is State of the Community and budget meeting Friday. Next week, I will be attending up at the Kitsap Golf and Country Club a networking breakfast, and the purpose of this is to provide a venue for executive level leaders within Kitsap, Jefferson, Pelham, and North Mason areas to discuss school safety and security issues, new developments and concerns. So I will be attending that bright and early Monday morning up there. Tuesday, I have my Board of Health. Wednesday, Memorial Hall Board meeting. Thursday, weekly briefing with Mike. And Saturday, this Saturday, we'll be attending the Police Academy's graduation.
Thank you. Councilmember Schmidt.
Good evening. Many of the same meetings as the fellow council members here. Also attended the EDC board meeting last Thursday. Looking forward to State of the Community, and very interested and looking forward to seeing our 5 Shelton Reserve police officers graduate this Saturday. I'm happy to be there to support them.
Thank you, sir. Okay, now it's time for general public comment. Has anyone signed up for comment, Court?
We have Steve Marler.
Hi, Steve.
Council members, I was here 2 weeks ago at the last council meeting and read the municipal code on mandatory garbage collection, and ran out of time. It's an issue that needs to be looked at by you, as you are the ones directly responsible for governing the city. The municipal code states that mandatory garbage collection is applied to every single residence, or every single building capable of being a residence, whether it's occupied or not. It also states that garbage collection is required, or recycling is required for the same residence. If it's an empty building, such as a garage or storage unit, it also is required to have garbage collection, whether it is occupied or not. This is a hardship on many people throughout the city, and your municipal code is written as such with the allowance that special exemptions can be made. There's problem is that no one has gone forward and wrote out the outline for what these exemptions are. That is your responsibility to work within the city to determine these so that this can be taken care of. There's many buildings that or homes that have had garbage collection, and in the case of my mother-in-law who recently passed away, she was caught in the loop because of the fact that she had service. We cannot get rid of the service. If you look at all the other buildings throughout town that haven't recently had service, they're not caught up in this because they slid under the cracks. If you're going to require people that are recently having service to maintain that service, you're also going to have to take the time to enforce that to everyone else in this city. That's a huge expense, and it is really not going to fall on very happy ears. You can solve this problem easily just by creating a separate ordinance that requires that if a building is occupied, that the mandatory collection services are applied to that structure. An unoccupied building that does not create garbage should not be required to have these services. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's all.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Corey, could you go ahead, please?
Consent agenda. Vouchers numbered 18553 through 18645 in the amount of $1,076,149.36. Payroll warrants numbered 2276 through 2430 and 3807 and 18526 through 18548 in the amount of $715,369.24.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda is accepted. Thank you. We're now going to recess out of our regular meeting to open a public hearing for the vacation of Govey Drive and Mountain View Drive. Senior Associate Engineer Coberry Schneidmiller has some information for us. Coberry?
Thank you, guys. I know Craig has talked a lot about this in the past several months. This is a vacation for Govey and Mountain View for the hospital. They're looking to add in a 60,000 square foot building and are looking to use these two as parking access. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions?
We were briefed about this in our staff briefings with Craig Gregory this last week, and any questions I had were resolved at that staff briefing.
Good point, Gary.
And it can only be used for parking because of the utilities.
Public testimony, anyone signed up?
Nobody has signed up.
All right, thank you. I guess that closes the public hearing, and we'll go back to regular session. Okay, and we'll move right into business agenda. So, Coberry, please present the ordinance for vacation of Govey Drive and Mountain View Drive, and I understand there might be a change before the second
Yes.
reading. Okay.
One thing that was not addressed in this ordinance is the utility easements. We will be addressing that and reserving the right to water, sewer, and storm drain that run through there.
Okay. Council members, questions, comments at this point?
No, I have none.
Okay, so can we have the first reading of ordinance number 1928-0818, please?
Yes. Ordinance number 1928-0818, first reading. An ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, vacating Mountain View Drive and Govey Drive.
Okay, do we concur that we should move that ahead to the business agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next, Community Development, Mark Ziegler has some information about some park property that is available.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mark?
Council members. I'm pleased to bring you this opportunity tonight to discuss the potential acquisition of park property for the City of Shelton. Staff has recently been in conversations with the Capital Land Trust for the acquisition of just over 52 acres, 52.22 acres on the southwest portion of the city limits at the top of Turner. You'll see in your packets there is a map. So this opportunity came about with Capital Land Trust is not wanting to be a long-term property owner, but they've been approached by the two property owners, Mankey Lumber Company, Mankey Timber Company, as well as the Angle family, in receiving these properties And they're certainly, Capital Land Trust is certainly interested in stewardship. These properties would provide not only stewardship opportunities and habitat preservation, but also passive and active recreation areas within the city that would meet a number of the elements in our existing Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Plan, including a location for a neighborhood park in that area of the community. Our current standard for neighborhood parks is 1/2 mile service radius. So anybody living within a 1/2 mile service radius should have access to a neighborhood park. And so this is a place that's area of the community that's deficient, as well as providing nature trails and walking paths, which were high priorities in our existing Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Plan. Within the properties, there's also 1,500 feet of Goldsboro Creek on one side of the bank, 580 feet of tributary on both sides of the bank, and wide and functional vegetated riparian corridor covering approximately 20 acres. These are important habitat and values for our fish that are in Goldsboro Creek, and preserving those really would help that watershed and that habitat. I don't know if you're aware of, several years ago, the city was approached on this Mankey property prior to it being logged. We had a number of residents in that neighborhood that approached the city and asked for the city to purchase the property or step in and maintain the level of service that they were seeing on their adjacent properties. That did not happen. We didn't have the resources to move forward at that time. But this is an opportunity now. Although the upland portion is logged, much of the area is still wooded and in its natural environment. If we can, I'll go through a slideshow and show you a little more of the area. So you'll see on the first slide, the yellow portion is the Mankey portion, just over 38 acres. The orange portion is the Angle property, and the city right up there at the top, down at Goldsboro Creek, currently has a little, just less than 1 acre parcel at the bottom of the creek there. You'll see the blue line there at the bottom of the hill indicates Goldsboro Creek, and then there's some seasonal tributaries that run down the hillside. These are some on-site photos for you to get perspective of the properties themselves. This is up at Eagle View Place, so up at the top of Turner to the south. There's a road in there that dead ends into the Mankey property. These are areas, Eaglewood, top of Turner, these are the areas that I referred to that lack neighborhood park space in our current park plan. This is an access point off Harbor that was utilized the property for the logging of that portion. It's currently gated. There's residences on both sides. This is from South 16th looking west. So this is about 230 feet of property on the frontage of 16th there. This area lends itself to more active recreation area. It's not heavily wooded. It's flat. You can put play structures in there, play field, picnic shelter, things like that might be more active recreation areas. The next slide is the physical access to Angle property, which is off Bayview. So that's looking west on Bayview. Angle property is across the street there on the top of the photo. I can slow down if you have any questions on any of these slides. If you like.
I have just one.
You bet.
Not a question, just, I know that they've logged some of that. How much did they log?
About 6 acres.
Okay.
I'll have a representative slide coming up that kind of shows you an aerial of that log portion.
We won't be maybe re-tree that property?
It's already replanted. Yeah, Mankey did that after logging.
Okay, I have
Yeah.
to do that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, very good.
Yep. This looks at part of the logged area of the 6 acres, approximately 6 acres that I referred to, down the logging road looking to the west. And another photo just of the same type of area, show representative of what the current condition is of the property. This is an aerial, kind of washes out there a little bit. This is an aerial photo of the log portion looking west again. The Mankey property,
What kind of trees did they replant on there, Mark?
they're fir trees, Doug fir. and another photo looking east on the property, looking to the adjacent neighborhood. And you'll see some windrows of some of the debris that was left, some of the deciduous trees and habitat trees that were left in the upper portion there.
Mark?
Yes.
Is Mankey going to burn those, or are they just, you don't?
Our discussions are, at this point, would be left on site. So we certainly can have a conversation what that's going to look like long-term, yes. This is just down the logging road, heading to the west on the property, and the photo is oriented northwest towards the top of the slope that moves down to Goldsboro Creek. And then another picture looking a little more west, southwest of the logging road, and you'll see kind of off in the distance there, that looks actually kind of across 101. So it does have a view across the 101 to the west there to the vantage point, which is this slide that looks from the top of that logging road to the west. Now we'll get into some of the trail photos. This is the beginning of the trail off that logging road that leads down to Coffee and Goldsboro Creeks. You can see that the trails are fairly well established right now. They get used quite a bit by, I assume, local residents there, neighborhood, and the folks that, as well as game, that are utilizing those for recreational purposes. Another photo taken just 200 feet down from the last photo shows how well established the trail is. A little bit of wet area, seepage that comes from the hillside there, and you can see some of the native vegetation and trees. Another photo of representative of the trees down on that hillside. You'll see not only conifer but deciduous trees throughout that area, quite mature with a fairly significant canopy. Another photo of the trail, again representative of what's on site right now. It really is accessible and usable for a number of people and populations that could visit these sites and take advantage of those. The next slide shows the trail adjacent to Goldsboro Creek. You'll see the creek there in the brush a little bit, and then another trail that comes down to the creek and fronts on there. I've heard, anyway, that this is quite a popular place for people that swim and utilize it for those reasons, some fishing and things like that in the season. And this just looks above a little bit and down Goldsboro Creek some more. You'll see kind of on the slopes in the winter that fills up quite a bit, where that rock that sits on that ledge is actually covered or mostly covered by the creek as it runs in the winter and during high rain seasons. Another picture, possibly a landing or something for some old logging back in the day, but the trail runs adjacent to that. This photo looks back west along Goldsboro Creek. You'll see that it's basically across from 12th Quarter, or where kind of turning point is located at that area. Just across Goldsboro Creek from that area is where this photo is taken. And again, same location.
You know what I think you have? I think you have a diamond in the rough. This is a cool place to have a park.
Yeah.
Really neat.
Yeah, I think it's representative of areas that are far outside the city limits at this time. This is a northern slope, kind of heads back to the Angle property a little more. And again, looking down to the west from the Angle property, showing a little more of the representative vegetation and trail. Next one is up on the Angle property, closer to the Bayview access point. So it's kind of the flatter portion, but again, shows you representation of the trail and the timber there. A little more of that area up near Bayview. And the last one in that area again. So some, and right in the immediate photo there in the bottom right-hand corner looks like some debris from the neighbors that maybe yard debris over there. So but a well-established trail and access point for the community. At this point, this is a discussion. Capital Land Trust has indicated to us that they would like to see some action in November, but staff is just asking for maybe approval, consensus to move forward in discussions with Capital Land Trust and to relay any questions, bring back any information that you might have to move forward with this proposal.
Questions, comments from Art?
Mark, it appears to me by looking at the photos, the first 2 or 3 photos, that there's a lot more flat land there than I thought there was going to be. I mean, it seems like there's quite a bit of,
On the Mankey parcel, it's approximately 6 acres, yeah. We
Yeah, you could
certainly
actually
haven't
make a-
surveyed it, but we've scaled it out on some overhead.
yeah,
overhead,
you could make a nice
photos.
park up there or whatever, but also, the funds will be coming out of what now? The
Correct, so.
25,000, was it, or something?
So the funds required, if we saw this project through, the Angle property is in designated forest land designation with Mason County. Well, both properties are, the Mankey property and the Angle property. Mankey would pay their portion to remove that from designated forest land designation. The Angle family is asking that be handled by the ultimate property owner. So Capital Land Trust is asking that the city cover those expenses. Those expenses are estimated to be at $23,500 to pay off that designation of forest land. And then there would be whatever real estate transaction costs associated with that as well. And those would be covered through the Shelton Metropolitan Park District funds.
I had one other little question. But,
Go ahead.
and I really hate to go this way, but I just, with taking over this property, are we liable, is the city liable for, any accidents down there in that river or that creek? I'm a little nervous about, John can help, I don't know, but I know we have more trails around town. Is there any signage that says, I don't know?
So there's a recreational lands immunity statute that comes into play for properties that allow the general public to recreate on those. And so there's immunity to a certain extent provided to the city.
Okay.
If we make improvements, say we put in a playground, we certainly have a liability.
Okay.
We have a duty to maintain our properties. We have a duty to make sure that there's not latent defects and hazards on those properties. But to a certain extent, the recreational lands immunity statute would come into play. You can mitigate some liability by signage and, maintenance and things like that, but you're never completely off the hook for potential litigation. And certainly our attorney could speak to that as well. But we've done a fairly job in my time, fairly good job in my time here at the City of Shelton, and have we maintain our facilities to the best of our abilities. We maintain records of that maintenance. If there is an injury, if there is a claim, we're able to handle that right away. Typically, in my experience here, we haven't had those those claims that have significantly hampered or handcuffed the city.
Yeah.
Well, the same with the Teresa Johnson Trail, there's water there. That's a city trail.
Yes.
I'm definitely supportive of continuing the process here and moving forward. If anybody's been to the Bay Shore Preserve, that's a Capital Land Trust entity, and I think the partnership with that organization would be fantastic. So.
How many parks were you thinking in this whole parcel? Would it just be one park on one end or a park on several ends?
By park, you mean a developed park? So the active recreation area? That would come through some master planning process, and so we would engage the community, engage the neighborhood, obviously have public meetings, meet with with the council and go through that process, much like we've done with Neelan Park and Callahan Park over the years. So that would be a planning process. We would most likely hire a landscape architect that could guide us in that process, develop a plan for best use of that property, how to approach those uses in the most effective and efficient manner, and then that would give us our marching orders, and that would give us a cost estimate, a phasing strategy, and really give us that roadmap to where we're going.
Okay. I think it's a great idea.
Go ahead.
The idea of getting free property has always been exciting to me. Having said that, there are some things that we really got to take and understand, and this is the opportunity to talk about that. We got a fairly large amount of property that we could pretty much get, but there's the fine print that says if we choose to do anything with that property other than the park, it reverts back to CLT. I mean, and so we, in accepting this, we'd have to accept it knowing that it's only park property, and we don't get any tax income for the city on park property. So theoretically, if some of this property or a lot of this property were developed into some sort of ability for us to get some revenue from, then we've kind of exited that one out of the picture. It is a nice location because it just joins everything we got. And I love parks, but I think we have to really think about this, the fine print on these things. And if we chose to take part of that property and do anything with it or get any kind of revenue from that, it's kind of, through taxes, it's kind of, the disclaimer there shuts that one off. So my question would be, what would happen if we chose not to do this? If, you know.
I would imagine CLT, as Capital Land Trust, has demonstrated that they don't want to be long-term landowners. They would look for another partner. The Mankey property currently is outside the city limits. It's not in the city limits at this time, so that would be an annexation process that would take place later down the line if the council so choose to take action on that property. The Angle property is in the city limits.
Part two of that is that I think this is still a negotiating phase, and that we might want to entertain the opportunity that we take the property, but we are not necessarily held to that fine print that says all of the property has to stay in that there may be some property that we chose to do something else with. So I think I'm very open for it, but I think that now is the opportunity to take a look at it and think. One thing is what the city might want to do with some of the property other than just park, maybe. And the other, the fact that we're locking out a large portion of potential income through tax revenue to the city if we chose to put that much in. 100% park forever cannot make a difference. So this would be the time when we think about those things.
I've got a couple questions. On being outside the city currently, would that be something you'd, if we purchased the property, or if we got the property, would that be something you want to move on fairly quickly to get it annexed?
We would do it under our comp plan amendment. So
It
the
may-
next appropriate comp plan amendment, it would be included in.
Okay, so it might
in the
take a
annexation.
while.
It would, if we didn't get it done this year, which is unlikely, it would be in 2019.
Okay, and then in that in-between period, since it's in the county, who would be handling the security on that property?
So the city would be on the hook to maintain it. Our park staff would patrol it, maintain it, pick up litter, to do assessments of the property. If it's a police action, it certainly lies within the county at that point. I believe there's the city police, the Shelton Police Department would respond to city property at that point. I didn't have a chance to confirm that with Chief Moody today, but I will certainly follow up on that question and make sure that that's a scenario that would happen.
But it'd be relying on city or county regulations, not city regulations.
Well,
I
correct.
mean,
Yes,
as
code,
far as police
code.
action.
Correct.
Yeah.
At this point, yes.
And then kind of to dovetail with what Gary asked, the CLT limitation would allow development, park development, of some type on the part that we could put in some type of facility in.
Correct, yeah, on the uplands. Most of the slopes and near stream, near Goldsboro, are undevelopable anyway. They're either critical slopes, they're within critical areas, our critical areas ordinance covers that. So really I think the crux of the question is the upland, is the approximately 6 acres of the Mankey property, and we didn't scale out the kind of the flat portion, if you will, of the Engel property and how that may be used. We've had some internal discussions that there might be about 3 lots there that could be developed that were off of that critical slope, adjacent to the road and available. But again, the Mankey property, potentially 6 acres. Again, it would take, however it's developed, it could take a subdivision, full improvement, streets, utilities, if somebody approached, the development in that manner.
But something like a playground or parking lot, you're understanding that'd be within the CLT restriction?
Correct. We've had that discussion, and that certainly would be spelled out more specifically if we move forward, and we can bring that to you, certainly prior to any action, that you could see specifically what would be allowed and what wouldn't be allowed, and the parameters within that property.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Any other questions for Mark? Consensus of the group, I think it's something that we want to pursue, so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate
All
your
right,
time.
you're welcome. Okay, next on the agenda, start the action agenda. Mark Ziegler, I think, is filling in for Terry tonight.
Yeah.
So it's another ordinance about business licensing.
Thank you. This is the second presentation on the city's business license ordinance 1926-0818, and this is the ordinance that allows the city to partner with State Department of Revenue for business license application and processing through Department of Revenue. I believe this is queued up and ready to go, as talking to our IT department and with Terry Schnitzer. The direction seemed to be that this is something that was that the council wanted to move forward with, so it's queued up and ready to go with your approval tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Someone signed up for public comment?
Nobody has signed up for public comment.
Okay, comments or questions from the council?
I think for the citizens that possibly, some questions have been asked of why we're doing this, and so maybe Mark or someone could make a statement. I've told people, one is that we have to, within a year or two, it's a state requirement. That's my answer, but maybe Mark, you could elaborate upon that more.
Correct. Engrossed House Bill 2005 passed in 2017, and it requires the city to partner with Washington State Department, excuse me, I'm reading this, as this isn't daily activity. Department of Revenue Business Licensing Services. The city does not complete partnership with the business licensing services. It may no longer issue business licenses after December 2022.
And if I may add to that, in addition to that, since the city has moved forward with partnering with the state, we are required to meet that deadline by October 17th, 2018, which is why the timeframe is a bit tighter. The positive about this is that it's going to streamline the business licensing process so that when someone is applying for their state business license, they may simultaneously apply for any city licenses, and we'll work on integrating that system with us financially. But because we have signed on as a partner with the state in order to take effect in January, this ordinance must be in place by October 17th.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah,
other comments
I've
or
also heard
questions?
some comments from people about why are we turning our business licensing over to the state? That's not what we're doing here. So I just want to make it clear that people understand.
I heard my comments at the barber shop, just in case somebody wanted to know.
And for the public and for the applicants, there is a link on the city's website to go directly to the BLS services and apply there. And then we have a public portal, a public computer upstairs now where we're taking recreation program registrations, and that can be made available to go to the site too. If somebody comes in person, they might not have access to a computer, they can do that right at our front counter and also apply for their business license right here and be able to take care of that service.
Sounds good, Marty. Okay. All right, so let's ask for the second reading of ordinance 1926-0818.
Ordinance number 1926-0818, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, relating to partnership with the Washington State Department of Revenue for the purpose of issuing business licenses and amending Title V of the Shelton Municipal Code.
I move to adopt ordinance 1926-0818, an ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington relating to the business license.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to accept ordinance 1926-0818. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. I don't believe it. Our final agenda item is administrative report from interim city manager, Mike McCarty. Mike?
Thank you very much, I think. No, thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here, Mayor and council members. So far, it's been a whirlwind of a couple of days, trying to soak it in, and it will take me a little bit to get back up to speed. There are a lot of things that are the same as when I was here in early 2000 when I left, and there are a lot of things that are different. And during I'll just give you a little story of what happened yesterday at the management team meeting. There was a discussion on whether I wanted business cards, and I said a small box, please, as I don't anticipate being here that long, because one of my goals is to hopefully work with you to get a city manager that will replace me in short order, one that will fit well with the city of Shelton. I have a call with Joe Slavin on Thursday to talk about his recruitment efforts and share with him some thoughts I have to maybe dig a little bit deeper. My career has been interesting in that I've had the opportunity to come in contact with a lot of people, and I know this business very thoroughly. So I'm looking forward to that effort. Just to kind of give you an idea of the last couple of days, I've been in briefing meetings with Mark and Craig and other department directors. I attended the Sierra Pacific dedication ceremony yesterday, although I did not have lunch, so we had a lunch meeting back here. One-on-one, you've each mentioned one-on-one meetings that I've had with several of you, and we'll continue that this week. Looking forward to working with you on Friday at the budget retreat, just to get a better handle on where that is. I did have a phone meeting this morning with Sandy Hines, and she caught me up on some of your deliberations over the last several retreats. I had a very productive meeting with Kathleen and John today, and I'll just again share with you a brief story. Kathleen at one point asked me if I knew her dad, and I did, actually. Her father was the longtime city manager in Chehalis and went on to be the city manager in Kelso. And as I shared with Kathleen, he was one of my early career mentors. He was an outstanding city manager and very, very involved in the profession in this state. It was an honor to know Jay Haggard. Tomorrow, I'm continuing meeting with staff. Your former interim city manager, Vicki Look, is coming in to meet with me tomorrow afternoon. Looking forward to that. Thursday, I'll be on KMS radio at 8:30 on the Focus on Shelton program. So wish me luck with that. It's interesting. Attending the Chamber's State of the Community meeting on Thursday with many of you, and I think I'll sit side by side Mayor Rogers as he presents the state of Shelton community to the members attending. And I think that's it.
Okay.
And I do look forward to at least continuing your normal Thursday briefings with part of the council in the morning and those in the afternoon. And by Thursday, I'll have some other thoughts to share with you too in terms of moving forward. I don't believe that my direction here was to be a change agent, but if there are some productive things that we can work on in preparation for a new city manager, I won't hesitate to talk to you about those.
Thank you very much, Mike.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
So-
Pleasure to be here.
With that, our agenda is complete. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Are we really done?